So I'm just going to share my screen. 2 seconds, nearly that. Bring it across. And now I see your comments, but no one else does. Right. So I'm just going to quickly refresh just exactly where we were last week. Obviously, I've just started looking at it myself just to remind myself what the hell we did last. I think we're in a position where we can start fine-tuning, making some sexy stuff into it, putting some extra bits onto it. But anyway, let me scroll back up. Let's just take a quick look at where we're up to with this. So, we've taken the variables from the website. We've established variables which weren't really defined on the website, but we do still need to control them, because if, for example, if we sold this to a company and the company comes back and says, I have no idea, I have no idea what you've said or anything like that, we do actually do something for the fillets. 1 second, I just want to check something. I just want to just double check. Yes, so I was just quickly checking that we're getting sound, just because I don't want to run this through and then all of a sudden it not be showing sound, which would be very embarrassing. So, right, so let me just get onto there. So yes, back to the actual, let's have a double check. Yes, it is. Are you not receiving anything, Jack? 1 second. Zoom my recording. Right, so I've switched the recording back on, so you will, if you play this back, you'll actually hear things go wrong for me, and all of a sudden that I realise that you guys can't hear me. Anyway, right, so as a catch up where we're up to. 1 second. As I said, I might have to keep stopping just because there's more and more people that I'm adding in. As a catch up of where we're up to. Now, what we've done is we added Excel. We got variables that were coming from the website. Now I'd taken these directly from the website. Then also we were actually using variables that weren't defined. But if you're adding something in and you can't control it, if you take this to a company, for example, and then the company reflects and say, well, we do know how big that is. If you're not controlling it, it can be a little bit embarrassing. So as long as you have control of each piece of geometry, regardless if you have specific dimensions for it or not, it is much more important. So that's why for me I added that in. I'm just being really anal here. I'm just lining all my comments up. Right, so then we ran in, we'd got a new part running, we'd isolated any part counter, so we let SolidWorks deal with that. Then we came in and then we offered these two as a particular option, where if the user chooses one, it will go to a standards. Now that standards I threw together on an Excel spreadsheet. I used a typical counting procedure and counted through and then picked out what I actually needed. What you'll notice here is because it's from a standard, I'm just extracting directly what I actually needed and then pulled it out whenever need be. I've just actually realised that's not true. What am I talking about? I've called standard here. Now, I'm just reminding myself now, I forgot about that. So if I scroll down, and if I scroll down to the bottom, if you remember, we actually put this, 2 seconds. If you remember, we actually put this into an external subroutine, and this was our counting procedure. What we're able to do is choose whether we're going to use it or not. And if you remember here, we've got a fit statement. If this fit is true, so this drops out as being true, then it will be made false and then everything can shut down. It's just if this tries to shut down when it's never been opened, you'll get ultimate errors. And if any of you have experienced that already, that's where that's particular coming from. There is one extra thing, just before we dive into this, I wanted to quickly show you. Now I had an email from a student who was going through, Oh shoot, 1 second. He was going through his... Oh, I thrown it in the bin, that's awkward. He was going through particular how to do the circle alignment. I'm just going to quickly offer a quick recap on how to do that. Now this is if you're doing springs, coils, anything where you're going to add a helix to it. As just a reminder, when you see this layout, if you see here, this is the initial circle that puts, so this will be, if you will, the spring radius. This will be the wire radius. Now you see here my starting point relative to the origin is A over 2 as ever, because you're taking a diameter, so we're doing A over 2, and then the center of this plus what my wire diameter is, always remaining relative to the origin, so it's A over 2 plus that radius. It's never from that point. 0 never sits here. 0 will always be relative to the radius or relative to its origin. Just something to keep in mind. I know it catches a few people out, and it caught me out for a long time, so it's one of those things that you've got to practice with. And if you see here, that's what we were doing here as well. We were taking it relative to it, because that's the origin, that's the starting point. In this particular point here, you're setting the origin, but when you set that origin, you can't presume that your next origin will be relative to it. You've got to work your way along it, if you will. Hence where this came from. Anyway, so coming back to it, what I'll do is a quick reminder. If I run it, it runs in. I'll read from the Excel spreadsheet. So if I press 1, it reads from the Excel spreadsheet, asks me for a diameter to count through. I'll go 8, and then it will crash. Brilliant. Where am I coming from there? See, right. Now, if anybody's downloaded my file, you'll find that this is where it's coming from. So if I just come back, this is probably because if I go to my spring washer, I'm now in a new location. I'm on a different PC. So what I need to do is just redefine that again. For those of you who want the first class marks, which everybody wants first class marks, what I'm actually after is a way that I don't even have to do this, that it will automatically do it for me. That's a concern, because that was the same spot that I've just updated. Let's just try that again. What could be going on? Oh, is it? No, it's running. It's running. Right, so let that run through. And now it's basically asking me, if you remember, it's asking me, did I want to run again? And obviously I don't for this. Right. And then that's what we were getting. And that came from the Excel spreadsheet. So we're in a good stead here. Now, these fine tunings that I'm going to do, I'm not going to do anything that I haven't shown you on the notes, just because there's no point being difficult and then all of a sudden going, haha, you can do this as well. So for this, you see where we got this, if L is equal to Y or L is equal to Y, then when it comes up, it is a bit crappy. The input boxes, they're a bit crappy. Let's do a custom response. You know when you close something and it says, are you sure you want to close? What I'm going to do is I think I'm going to build one. Now, if anybody's wondering where I'm getting this reference from, I've called up the notes already. Hell, it's like I'm planned. So this was a set of notes, if you remember, the send message to user 2. Now what we're going to do is use it with a bit of aggression, because it looks like a dead simple function, and I mean, to be fair, it really is a dead simple function. But let's use it with a bit more, you know, oomph with it. So, see here, we've got constant value of 3, and if I have a 3, 3 tells me that I'll get a question mark. Obviously, I've got 5, so at this point, 3 and 5 is going to be a question mark and a yes and no. Because I don't want, I just want to make it look dead cool. Because I'm fine tuning this little angle of it. So what I'll do then is, first things first, I'm going to copy this. Now, I recently spotted like a best way I could describe it is a bit of a typo. That should be double P, because that's SolidWorks app, send message to user. So now that's how it functions. So 3 and 4 should be question mark and retry. So if I go 4, retry and cancel, so that tells me the configuration. So that tells me that if I turn this to 5, that will do it. So I need 3 and 5. Then I can see you I can hear you thinking, well, that's good and everything, but how else does this actually function? So if you see this here, what we're going to do is copy that directly out, and then I'm going to scroll to a particular point. It's more for this, I'm actually just wanting to fine tune this. So if I paste that in, still not right, so you know, don't jump on me like a ton of bricks yet. So I'm going to get rid of that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to L. And here you'll see that P's been dropped off. I can't help but wonder if it's Word that's done that. At least then it won't be my fault. So, and then I'll change that to 5. So I've got that 3 and 5, that valuable 3 and 5 that's in there. And I'll just now copy that. All I'm doing is the same thing. Paste. Drop the double question mark, as ever. And I'm going to drop the full stop. I know it's a bit daft, but it's just a full stop. It just don't look right. So, now, how do we actually register this? First things first, I mean, I know it's in the notes, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a watch to it. So I'm going to add watch. Now again, I'll show you how I did that. If I highlight it, right click, go to add watch, what it will do is pull that variable straight off. And it will place it into, not quarantine as such, but it'll place it into a position that I can actually read from it. So what I'm going to do is just put a marker on that. If you remember, in the border means that I'm going to break it. I'm going to press 2 on the initial startup because I don't want to actually go through the Excel bit. I just want to get to this quickly. So then I'm going to hit run. And let's go 2 because I'm going to go custom. 8, 10, 3. So it runs in and it should snap out. Oh, remote server machine does not exist or is unavailable. Where are we going to here? Ooh, why was fit set to true? That is an interesting one. So, let me have a look, let me have a look. Ah, look at that, right? So, in its previous setup, I've actually only just spotted this problem. In its previous setup, when I'd run it, I'd obviously run fit through and fit became true. Fit should have never have been true, so it needed a reset. So I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to actually put in another reset. So every time it runs in, it will reset fit, and I can be sure that it's going to be, well, it's going to be right, to be fair. So I'm going to come into here, and I'm just going to stick fit. So just to remind myself why the hell I've put that there, we get a comment on that quickly. So I'll just call this reset. Right, I know I've rushed there. Has anybody got any particular questions on that? Again, don't be worried because I am not recording your comments. So if there's any questions, you are more than welcome to stop me. Sweet. Again, just because I'm talking, don't mean you can't ask a question. So yeah, again, if there's anything, please say. Right. So I've now got myself to a reset point. I'm going to run that again, but I mean the argument is I'm going to have to test it on both sides, which we will do. So I've got 2, 8, 10, 3. Right. So it's now running. Fit was reset, and I'm going to go F5. So that's how I want it. That's exactly how I want it. So if I click yes, and then do F5. Oh, you scheiße. And right, so let me just I'll break it to there actually. So I'm going to run it again. I've run it and it's run through its particular cycle, which is not exactly what I was after. So I'll go 2. So I've had to run it through again to try and break it so I can see what's going on underneath the hood, if you will. Right, that's what I was after. You get to L. L's returned a value of 6. So if L's returned a value of 6, it means if I just pull my notes back across, you see there, L, if somebody clicks yes, returns 6. If somebody clicks no, it returns 3. We can use that to our advantage. So what I'll do then is I'm now going to drop this if statement, turn it into a comment, because you never know if it's going to work right. So what I'll do is say if L is equal to 6, then I mean, we could say if L's equal to 1, if L's equal to 3, sorry, not 1, if L's equal to 3, then it will do, then we could just cut it off completely. But we'll run this through and just check. So I'm going to go 2. Do I run? I'm just going to check, so we'll go yes. Right, so then let's go 2. No. Fantastic. So we've now got a really nice, sophisticated looking interface with it. So it's starting to build up that jazziness, if you will. So if I build that out, by the way, if you end up with this cursor like that, press insert. That will that will change so much perspective. It's such a pain in the arse when that happens. But right, so I'm going to hit save. Any crashing goes on and I've lost it, and I'm very upset. And there's lots of things being thrown, and you know the typical stuff. I'm starting to end up with a lot of parts at the minute. So just before we move on, I'm just going to get rid of some. That's back in. Right, so we've now got that. We've got a nice physical interface. It looks a bit better than a crappy input box. I'd like a welcome screen as well. So I mean, with a welcome screen, we don't have to worry too much with this one. This one's dead straightforward. We're not really interested about the user's input. So what I'm going to do is copy, and I just want something nice. So if we get to here, I'm going to paste, send message to user, we'll do double P, so because I'm not using it as a particular configure, I've dropped my arguments. Now if I want to just send a message like this and just want SolidWorks to flash up with a message, that's what it'll give me. So let's just put in a particular sign, and let's do 2 to give us an information icon, and then give us 2 for just pushing OK. So that means here, if I go 2 and then bring in 2, and then save that, let's just run it in. Oh. Oh, yeah, I'm just thinking there. I was wondering what the hell I'd done wrong there. I just realised it's because I left this in here. Forgot to change the input. So what we'll say is welcome. Oh, we'll say welcome to the spring washer maker. Something like that. You know, just a basic. interface with it. So if I run it, it should give me a welcome to Spring Washer Maker, and I click OK, and then we go straight into it. Now, as you're aware, the input box is a bit naff. So I think that we move away from this now. I think we now move on to getting the full architecture. Oh, we no longer need this, by the way, so I'm going to right click and I'm going to delete it from the watch, and I'm just going to bring that down. You'll notice up here I've not got my bulk turned on, so I'm going to right click, go to edit, and the edit tool is mint. It really is. So if I like here, I can do group indenting, I can do group comments. It makes life so much easier. Okay, so let's move on to the next phase. Let's introduce the user form. So I'm going to go insert user form, and I'm not going to go like sing and dance jazzy, like millions of tab buttons, ticks and stuff like that just yet, because what I actually want to do is I want to just get my basic configuration running first. I want to make sure that everything's running, maybe add some button disabling and get that basics working. Then once that's working, then start to drop on some really cool stuff, because at the minute we don't really know for sure where we're going with this. So first things first, let's add a label. Now let me just come back onto here. For my reference, what I actually want to do is, so A in this case was an inner diameter. So we'll do the same thing, but I'm going to rename this slightly different. So with this, I'm just going to add in, so I'm going to go label, and I'm going to go caption. I'm going to say inner diameter, inner dia, well, inner spring washer dia. No, we'll call it inner dia. I'm just trying to decide. I'll go inner dia, and what we'll do is we'll call this a U. So this will be A for the variable, U for the user form. When we're calling this will make life so much easier, because in fact what we'll do as well is we'll call AUL. So A for the variable, U for the user form, L to mark it as label. It just makes it easier for navigating around. So I'll do the same again. I'm just going to bring another label in. Again, it doesn't matter with the sizes just yet, because we're just, in essence, getting this thing roughly in position. And once it starts to run a bit more smoothly, then we're a bit more happier. So again, I'll go back to my spring washer. My next input was, I always get myself mixed up here. There's all these different functions I've got. There we go. So we've got outer diameter and thickness, T and B. So B was outer diameter. So B oh, I nearly made that mistake myself then. So we've got B, U, L. B for the variable, U for the user form, L for the label. Let me just double check and making sure. Yeah. And this becomes outer diameter. I mean, for completion, I better go in units, just because this label is what the user would see. Like that. So we now got some particular good stuff there. That's awkward. So what we'll do now is we're going to add our final one in, and we're going to go thickness. What I'll do is just close my teams actually. And we'll go thickness. So again, this is thickness in millimeters. And I'm not really doing anything that we haven't predefined. All I'm actually doing now is making things look lovely in true Lancashire accent. I'm just making everything look attractive, you know? So it's not really something that we're not done. So I'm going to T-U-L. And then this becomes T for variable, U for user form, L for label. So when we're calling these up to pull these values to replace our input boxes, this is where it's going to get it from. Central point, central user area, if you will. I'll just pull that down just to get some distance. Trouble is with these, you can get really obsessive. Is that just around size? Is it not? Some are just copying and pasting the boxes, which yeah, you can do that. I just want to drag that down a little bit, give myself a little bit more space. And now I'm going to go toolbox, text box. Sorry, bloody toolbox. Bring in text box, and let's just get the basis of this running. Once the basis of this runs, it is absolute child's play. It really is. So let me just bring you down a little bit. There we go. Oh, look at that. I don't like that. Oh, I don't like that. Okay, whatever. Really don't like that. So if I come in here, I'm just going to add another one in. You can actually pick these sizes. I'm just being really, really lazy. It's just because I just didn't like that, you know. And I should point out as well, tabbing. You know, when you tab to quickly go through and you're scrolling through something, that's particularly chosen by how you build these. So if I went bottom first, then this the top, then one in the middle, it would tab bottom, top, middle. So if you are really wanting tabbing to work and you keep looking at it going, why the hell is that doing that? It is purely because it's based on how you built it from the start. Look at that, they're all the wrong size. Brilliant. I can match it later, but I'm not too fussed right now. What we're actually interested in is that we get something useful. So I'm going to copy this name. The only reason I'm copying it is because I want to make sure I stay right, but it's no longer label. It's the text box. So again, I'm going to go here, and this would be, is this B? This is B. But B for variable, U for user form, and T for text box. Oh, brilliant! I've just saw what this is. This is tut. God, swear to God. Anyway, somebody's emathering. Right, so now what we got is we've got a nice basic interface to get running. Has anybody got any questions on what I've done so far? I mean, in essence, all I was really doing is naming these, and when we go to actually pulling why these names need to be there, it'll make perfect sense. You will look and say, right, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Because there's a few things we want to do with it. We want to basically set up the foundations to get this running really sweet. But to get it where we want it to be, that's where we're going to be held up a bit. So, I'll start off with basics. Let's go into command buttons. Go to there, and I'm going to go to there. First things first. Oh, sorry. That was me. I should have double clicked in. So we're going to go name. I'll call this close. Oh, yeah, it's illegal. So, close is owned by Microsoft. Sounds silly. So I'll call this close button. And then for my caption, I'll call that close. Again, on here, I'm going to call this build. And here we'll call this just build. Right, so we've got a basic interface now. It's a basic start. We do need to do more, and it's a nice intro for us to get moving on to something a bit more sophisticated. But at this point, it works out well for what we want. Right, so when we first bring these in, everything starts from the main, the sub-main. What we want to do is make sure that there's nothing illegal about what happens within it, that everything, when it comes in, is right and it's doing what it needs to do. Now, if you remember, we'd set up this user form, this intro here. Now, I arguably still like that intro. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this and put it up here. Then what I'm going to do is I've still got this option of going to start, which boosts things straight back if there's a mistake. So if I don't put this above where the user form gets introduced, this could prove to be problematic, and we don't really want to mess with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to say load user form. Now at this point, the user form loading is not really useful, not yet, but soon it will be, because we're going to do things to the background before we even get into it to make sure no pillock like myself can mess with the code that you've added. So I'm going to go load user form, and then I'm going to go user form 1 dot. That dot instantly says, right, whatever's in the user form, dot will allow me to do whatever that user form can do. Give me like a list of functions. All I actually want to do is turn it on. So I'm going to say show. And now what it'll do is it'll run in, do its normal procedure, then run into here, load the user form, load user form 1 and dot show, and then it will re-show it back. It will show it back up. It will show it up, I should say. With this, I've got my ultimate kill switch, so I can just say end. We may need to revisit that because it may start to cause us problems. But initially, it's a start. The one above I just deleted because, if you remember, I renamed the buttons, so that will be obsolete now. So I'm going to double click back in, and then I'm going to go build. So to have these functioning, the system knows whatever the active window is where it should be. If you hide the active window, what it will do is default itself back and then run through particular procedures. So I'm going to say I'm going to say user form 1 dot hide. So now it knows to hide. It'll jump in, then hide. And double click back in here. So any questions before we continue? Give me ultimate time to inhale for the e-cigarette, I won't lie. Right, so we're in. We've now got some ways of bringing things in. There is a real catch though, that's going to catch us out if we're not careful. This. We gave an input for 1 or 2. How we approach this, we can play around with it. What we could do is we could simply add a text box for the minute to make sure it's going to run. But we will need to tidy this up. Definitely need to tidy this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in this text box, and I'm going to leave it at text box because what we're probably going to do is delete it. We're going to use text box to deliver that 1 or 2. Tell you what, no, I'm not going to even mess with that. Checkbox. Now checkboxes, we've not done anything with checkboxes at all, and it's not because I've been trying to be difficult. The checkbox is an interesting one because all I've done there is just dragged and drop a checkbox. What we'll do is I'm gonna change the name to standards. And I'm going to change the caption to standards in use. I'm just trying to think of a name for it really. So I've got standards in use. I just thought then what we could do is we could have the user. We could have the user do. We could check it now. I need to show you how this works. So I'm going to double click in. See here, it's down as a click. So what we can do is we can do a few things. We can check it. So first things first, let's come back here. Now I'm going to start making some space because getting this working is just a bit problematic. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to comment that out completely. I comment all these things out because if something goes wrong, we need to be able to step back. So I'm going to go O is equal to user form, whoops, user form 1 dot. So I'm going to go standards. What we need to do is we need to figure out what the hell that is returning. Now, from my experience, that returns a true or a false. Because if we double click back in, it's a check declaration. So then let's come back. And what we will do is let's try and break it to here. If we can break it, what we can do is drag this back up and we can see exactly what it returned. If it even runs through. So let's check. So add to watch. And then let's run. Go main. Let's run it through. See what happens. Welcome to Spring. Yeah. Oh, object required. So look, debug. Oh, that's awkward. Load user form 1. What a silly sod. Forgot to put in 1. Okay, let's run that again. Ooh. Now, we had an ultimate dropout then. So I'm just going to scroll to that side here. Now, that's better. Now, I have a particular setup and it's been a nightmare, I should say. Right, so I've got 1, 2, 3. Doesn't matter here. This is where it's at. So if I click that and then click build. Interesting. It's actually returned. It hasn't returned anything. Okay, so let's stop that. Go build. User form 1.hide. So I've run back in and it's a build button. Build 2 and so it didn't return anything from it. Okay then, so let's go give me a value. So if I type value and go brackets, that brackets then says whatever's there, return it back for me. I want to see what's inside of that box. So I click run again. Go in, click OK and build So that's now returning interesting. Right, so let's come back again. There's so much we've got to do here, so much. So we're going to come back and I suspect we've got it down as a double. So let's just comment that out for the minute. I know it's very bad practice and I know any of you who've listened to me in class, that will be cringe-worthy what I've just asked you to do. But what we'll do is we'll remove that and we'll go right down to, this is like the wire, if you will. There's a lot of instabilities there, but we can check to see exactly what it's returning. So I'll go stop, and let's start again. And then we go use standards, build. Boom, that's what we're after. That is phenomenally good. So that actually tells us what I was actually assigning it as was wrong, because look at the variation, Boolean. So that means if the variations come back like that, it means any declaration. 1 second, sorry. That means any declaration here. It's the worst thing of working from home. Everybody thinks, it's alright, give you a ring. Honestly, no. Just no. So I've got O as Boolean. Oh. Oh God. There we go. So that lets me know that now it's stable. I need to make sure when I execute these things they're going to be stable. And I still don't trust that I've done it right, so I'm going to run it again. Just want to be right that by setting it like that, it's going to give me something running. So I'm going to go up, run. We're now Boolean. We're now into true. Fantastic. Right, so this means now we can start to play around even more. Happy days. So we had a case statement to allow us to navigate through. What we do here is we now no longer ask it for a value. All we simply do is say true and false. And case else is still there on these T positions, but because we're on a Boolean, now it even stops people from really being difficult. So the argument is, this case else, is it really needed? I suspect not, because it's a Boolean interface. You can't fool it now. You can't overwrite it. So I'm going to comment that out, because I am so confident that that is actually pointless. So we've even been able to drop, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We've been able to drop 13 interface lines. Oh, hang on a minute. What am I talking about? It's false. It's like case. Ah, right. No. I'm just being a complete noggin here. This is a nested case statement. What am I talking about? Because you remember we added this case statement in, didn't we? Because if somebody did choose to go custom and they got really daft with the T statement, we could actually test them against it and go, no, because we can always keep checking it. So yeah, okay. Right, so yeah, that's just me being daft. And we've got the inner wall check. So dare I say it, we are looking good. Right. Again, I'm never sure what I'd like to do, because I'm going to forget. Just going to bring that across, tab that in, and then say now seen as Boolean. Just because it's a true or false statement. In fact, I'll even put that in my comments, just to remind me what I was doing. Really makes me pleased with that, because then I can come back and go, yes. And it also helps me when I turn this back on, I'm trying to remember what the hell we were doing. So I'm going to bring that back, and now this is becoming almost obsolete. I'll leave it there for the minute until I'm ready to start deleting, just because I you know what it's like, you come away and go, what was I doing? This is interesting now. When it comes to here, I'm going to simply add a comment, tab on there, and now I'm going to say user form 1. Oh, hang on a minute. I want a value from user form, open arguments, user form 1 dot, and our initial value was not from the label, it was from the text box, so it's AUT. Tab it, then close the argument. Now we've deactivated the input box, and now we're coming straight from the user form. We're getting that one step closer for this nice jazzy interface, if you see what I mean. Right, so let's scroll back down, do the same thing here, and I'm going to tab that out. I'm going to comment that out, I should say, not tab it out. That's very misleading. So I'm going to go val, open my arguments, user form 1 dot, and with this it was B, if you remember. So I'm just going to type B, bring it down, and it was but, and then I'm going to close that. And then if you remember, for T it was tut. So I'm going to comment that out. I'm going to go val, open arguments, user form 1 dot tut. Tab it in, close the argument, give it a space, and there we go. So now, ladies and gents, boys and girls, we have an operational user form in its basic forms, but we have a user form, and also we have a checkbox. Again, I didn't do checkboxes because, I mean, it doesn't take long to figure out exactly what they're returning. This tool here will absolutely save your ass if you've no idea why something's not playing ball. So I'm going to delete that, bring that back down. So let's come back up, and we're not sure, never sure. So what we do is we run it through again. So let's run that and see what happens. So run from main, let's go. Oh yes, thank you. So we got standards. Oh, we got. So let's do a normal one. So let's do 8, and I'll do 10 for an outer diameter. I'll do thickness of 4, and then build. That's our normal particular interface. Do I want to run again? No. And that's right. So let's get to the top. Going to take a dimension, just be sure what I'm looking at. But it's in inches. Oh no! I've been messing around with changing this for days. It's been frustrating the hell out of me. Anyway, so 8mm, which tells me it's delivering as it should. The thickness on here, just for argument's sake, let's take a look, just to be sure, because it's alright me saying just trust me. And we've got a 4mm thickness. So we know that methodology for interface is working, it's functioning. Now let's try the other side of this. So I'm going to go run, and you'll see here, look at this, we'll have to revisit this. This is a massive pain in the backside. We need to make sure this is unloaded. Anyway, but let's go back to standards. So what the standards will do now is they will just take from the A, if you remember. So let's build and see what happens. If it goes wrong, we've got to figure out why it's gone wrong. Now it's interfacing with Excel, runs through the process, gone through, selected, and that's what we got. So go no. What I need to just double do is check my diameter. 8mm. So now we've got something that's a little bit closer to where we want to be. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to close that. I keep closing them down just because I don't know what you guys are like, but you get sick of having millions and millions and millions of parts being open. And when you go to close them down at the end, you just think, God! Now if you've not done already, make sure you hit save, because don't forget, this crashes and it's game over. There is no more playing. We are just knackered. And the beauty is what you'll find is I've been saving updated parts each time. This is purely because if something does go wrong and the code becomes corrupt, I'm able to even step back because I have a former copy of that. So it's something to keep in mind, something to keep it relative, just because yeah, it can be quite soul destroying if something goes wrong. So I'm going to go back to my user form. We know that the provisional function's working. Now, what I'm going to do is call up some new nodes. Again, I find it useful to use the nodes, because if I use the nodes, so one second, I'm just going to close my emails down because they're raining the crap out of me. If I use the nodes, it allows me to refer to stuff, and you've got these, so it makes life easier. Right, so what am I on with now? I'll drag them across so you can see them. User forms. That's the simple one that we did in class. But what we need is something that's going to give us something that we need to know. Right, so let's have a quick look at how this functions. Oh, that didn't work right. I've got a really weird... I've recently bought the Razer, and I'm still getting used to it. So every time I hit one of the 20 million buttons that's on there, it keeps doing random stuff, so I'm not sure where I'm going with that. Anyway, so this process is pretty much what we've just done. We don't have to worry about this because that's not what I'm interested in. What I'm actually interested in, how can I protect stuff? See there? That refers to what we've just done. We've grabbed them values, we've brought them in, and you see here I've gone over 1,000 here. Now in our code, what I did is did away with that and actually created a units area. So I don't have to worry about the units that are coming in. They all fall into a particular point where they will be dealt with. So that's where this refers to be different. So we're running to here, run code, so patch generator onto the list module box, right? So we come onto here, and yeah. Oh! Now, this is something we want to play with. This is a useful bit of kit. So, let's just call the Excel spreadsheet up. I'm just going to call it up. I have an idea, which is often not the best thing to do, but I have an idea to get us going anyway. So let's just call it the spring washer. We went from 3 to 20, and B and T were both interfaceable. We could choose which way it was going to go. If you remember, HP was the height pitch. We could do, I mean, in time we could perhaps add the fillet as well. It just depends what you want to do. But we're going to go 3 to 20. Now, you need to follow me through with this. What we're going to do is modify A. So I'm going to bring this across. We're going to go, let's go back to the user form. I've got so much stuff open here, I'm getting myself confused where the hell I'm going. There we go, yeah. So we're going to go back to the user form. And what we actually want is a list box. So we've got combo box, we've got list box. Combo box is interesting. I don't suspect a lot of you have actually played around with this yet. What I'm going to do is bring this across. Bring that to there, over there. Combo box is basically a text box and a list box. Which way you want to go with it is entirely up to you. Combo box allows you to have an input and also variation. So I can either collapse them in particular ways or do anything I really want. What we'll do though is, where we've got this, which is AUT, I'm going to bring in a list box. Bring it to there, up to there, and then I'm just going to scroll. Basically, I'm going to replace that box for the minute. While we're designing, it doesn't matter where we leave it. What we're interested in is getting stuff in there. So, this is AUT. I'm going to have to call this AUT2. So I'll call this AUT2. And I'm going to go back to my A and call that AUT2. Now, if we pre-put a button in there that we can choose from it, it means if we go from standards to custom, we've got this ultimate bridge between them. We've got a way of controlling A. Now A arguably will never be usable. It will never be a custom option. For example, you couldn't have a user go, right, 8.27765, because we're operating to n particular values. So that's never going to be the case. So what I'm going to do is come back, and I know that my inner diameter is going to be something that will be fixed. So let's go back to the original thing, and I want to show you exactly where my excitement is coming from. The user form initialize. The idea of the user form initialize is simple. When we went through load user form initialize will trigger in the background. We're going to step this through anyway so you can see it. But user form initialize will trigger in the background, and what we can do is drop them in, but we can pre-configure inputs directly. And for those who are after first class, I will show you exactly what people did. I'm not going to do it for you though, just saying. So I've got AUT here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and paste. That was me copying directly. So you see here, it's Lisp pipe dia. So if I go back to the user form, if I go back to the actual notes, scroll back up. Where is it now? So let me just see where I can find it. So control names. It's here somewhere. I will find it. I will find it. Oh, it's here somewhere. That's awkward. Can't find it. In these notes, one of the actual boxes is called Lisp pipe dia. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just delete all that. Don't need it. And to get me started, I'm going to go AUT2 dot. See that? That literally says, I've seen what the system is, I've seen what you're trying to do, these are the particular options that you can do. So I'm going to go, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Oh, I didn't want that neither. So I go dot, add item, and you can either click it or just hit tab. Now what it does is it says, right, okay, you want to put something in it. So I'm going to go 3. Then what I'm going to do is copy, paste, 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 paste. And I'm just going to reconfigure these to what I want them to be. Again, if there's any questions as we're going through, please stop me. I do not mind at all. It's just so if you see now, we're starting to actually build up the system. We're starting to even not now. So now we're actually starting to build up what it's doing a little bit more. So I'm going to go 14, I'm going to go 16, 18, 20. There we go. Okay. Right. So if you're not done it yet, if you're not done at the minute, please hit save. This will save your backside. It really will. So we'll hold things, hit save, and then let's just snap across, and let's see what we get. Again, this might crash yet, but you never know. We may be lucky enough for this to run first time. So let's go. Run. So what do I want? So if you remember, these are our standards. So if I click 8, outer diameter, 12, thickness, 3, and build. No. If you see now, what we're actually getting is a slick way. It's really, really starting to open up. The spring washer's starting to really formulate. And if you remember, we started off with the crappiest drawings. We started off with the basic interfacing. And now we're actually getting quite a nice, in-depth response for it. So I'm going to double click back in here. And I'm going to right click. And I'm going to delete. I don't want that now. It's doing its job. And I'm going to bring that back across. And then we bring that over here. Bring that over here. So we're now starting to look a little bit more sensible, if you will. I do want to jazz this up. I do want to make it physically look a bit more cool, if you will. But there is some very, very sophisticated stuff we can do. And just for some giggles, let's do it. So, first things first, one of the big issues. How can I break this? Dead easy. If I run it, runs in, go OK, and then you go build. Crashed. Brilliant. So I'm going to end that. So let's do some specific things. First things first, let's get rid of these build buttons. We need to turn off the build buttons when the user first starts. So, just because it's here, and why the hell not? Let's scroll through. Let's find. Oh, there it was. Let's scroll through and see how it's done. Now you look here. Thickness list part dia is not equal to. Right. What we're going to do first is we're going to click build button dot enable is equal to false. No, we're not. No, we're not. No, we're not. We're going to nick all of this. Now this came out of a particular test procedure. It's quite useful and it's going to do us a lot of good. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to copy that, and funnily enough we're going to populate every single box with the same test procedure, so all the boxes are testing each other to make sure they're all populated. If they're not, the build button will be disabled. So first things first, let's get into here. I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste. Now you should be well aware now that the buttons are not true to this. So what we're saying is now you look here, this is about text boxes being added. Now it's actually talking about how it's been interfaced. So what we'll do first is just try it like this. So let's go AUT2. Then let's go BUT. So these are the text boxes, don't forget. And we're going to go TUT. Whoop. Not that. We're gonna that really tickled me. Then I'm going to come back and go outer. And I need to bring all these back in, that's all. So we've got tut, we've got outer, and we've got click there. You notice click's not really been used because we're just checking to see if it's been checked or not. We will come to that. I'm going to delete it for the minute because we don't need it as of yet. What we're going to do is I'm going to copy this, because what it's doing is it says if the text box is not equal to an empty space and the build text box is not equal to an empty space and the thickness text box is not equal to an empty space, then make the build button equal to true. Else, if any of these aren't true, make it false. So in other words, if they're not returning a value, don't make the build button true. So in other words, you can't click it if it isn't turned on. So what I'll do is go into but, and I'm going to do the same thing here. Because again, it's a test that's become uniform all the way through. I mean, arguably, if it's the same test, could we not just go the subroutine rules still remain here. So if I put that there and I say and then I copy that, paste it there, and then I'll do the same thing down here. So now we're not even having to write lots as well. We've actually set this up as a one test tool. So save. If I've made a mistake, this will loop and we will have to shut this down. So let's run it again. Let's go. Then let's go welcome to the Spring Motion Maker. And you'll see now it's still set to build, but if I click, what it's looking to see is, if I click, will it disable? Oh, object required, so let's go debug. Ah, perfect, right. This is not as bad as I thought. So if I double click back in, you remember on the other set of notes, we'll just get back to the original set of notes, we get back on here, you'll see here, it's down as build button. And because I was messing around, I was building different things, and if you remember when I first put this together, I did the close first and then the build second. So if I come onto here, build button in this case is called build button 2. So I'm saying build button, and build button does not exist, so I click 2 and I put on 2. Click save, and then let's run this again. So run it again. Run into the routine, the loop's there, it now asks me for this. So if I click onto something, it should disable. Boom. So we've now got a disable key function right there. So if I choose 8, and then if I say, now we do have a real issue here, but we'll come to it in just a second. So if I go 11, then I go, I don't know, 4, it now becomes true. This is still gonna be an issue though. Massively gonna be an issue. It's gonna be such a pain. There's a few things we can do, and what we will do is we're gonna have to do an if statement that nests itself to everything else. So let me close that. Can you guys give me 2 minutes? Just need to nip to the loo. Right, apologies guys, I'm back now. Well, obviously because I'm speaking. Right, so it runs. There is one thing, well there's a few things, and I'm going to have to show you where the logic doesn't work. So if I hit run, we go, ooh, very good. Go, oh, I can hit build. Which, so, what went wrong? I'll show you. When this first runs, it runs through and it only happens when I interface with the boxes. Really, I want build button shut down from the start. So what I'm going to do is copy that as a statement, because that will deactivate it. When I first initialize the user form, I'm going to switch the button off. I know it's cheeky, but it works, so let's not complain. If I come back and I hit run again, and it's already disabled. Does it work? So let's choose some variables, go 11, and then, I don't know, 3. And it works, which is good. It's what we wanted. So again, I'm going to hit save. Now, an issue. An issue is, if I run this, if I click on standards, I actually don't want these to be used. But if these aren't populated and these aren't used, what's going to happen is the build button is never going to be activated. So we need to come up with logic that's going to allow us to overwrite that if we click that button. And if we don't click that button, then it needs to be back into its original setup. So what do we do? Well, there's a few things we can do. I'll double click in. We've got the standards check. Now what we need to do is we need to decide how we're going to function this. So let's say, we'll start with a guess. So let's say if standards dot true No, we're not going dot, we're going if standards are equal to true. Then, let's try that. Because what that's going to do is going to say if that button is made true, then, so if that button's made true, what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and make, let's choose one, let's go tut. So then what we're going to do is we're going to say tut dot enable is equal to false, and then we're going to end the if. That then runs it and we can check against it. Let's see if it does it, because if it does, we've now got a way to get to the build button and we can actually run initial tests as well. And if standards are true, we can get these two to be ignored, which is great. So let's go back. Into Spring Washer. Look at that, I can't. Can I interface with that? No, I can't. I can't interface with that at all. So can I go, let's try that. You look. So, what we really want as well is we want to make it false. So it's not usable, but we don't want the user thinking that they have to input something. So what we'll do is say tut dot visible equal to false. So we're going to turn that bad boy off. So that'll shut it off, and then let's give it another go. Let's run again. It's what we're after. Now, once I've made it true, it's not turning it back on. Now, you're going to get people who turn it on and off. So we're going to have to figure out a way to do that. So let's just see if we can turn it off, then turn it back on. So again, I'll go build into my standards. And what we need is an alternate. We need a way to double check. And so we need an else if. So let's just check for a good else if. So if I come to here, let's go SolidWorks. Oh no, let's go VBA else. No, if else. And we can see how these things are laid out. So you see here we've got if else. Ooh. No, don't like that. Don't like that. It's not what we're after. Let's get on to something else. I'm looking for it to be embedded. Else if, that's what we're after. Or we just got else. So let's drop an else in there. So come back, drop it down. Now it appears that the else actually stays in line, but we'll have a go. I'm not convinced that needs to be there like that way, but I could be wrong. copy that, bring that back. And we're going to rename these back to true. So in other words, if it's not true, do this instead. Because all it's been done is told a way to turn it off, not a way to turn it back on. So let's save that, run it back. Again, I rushed through this like mad just because it's fascinating for me. Has anybody got any questions on this so far? Again, I'm recording, so don't panic too much. But if there is any questions, please, fire away if you like. It's a tricky one, I do understand, but I hope that this is laying out a bit nicer. I hope, anyway, as brutal as this can be. So let's go stop and let's run again. So what I'm actually wanting to do is to check if I can shut this off and turn it back on. So shut it off, turn it back on, and it's interfaceable. So what we got is a nice way for testing, nice way for executing. So let's close that. There's other things I'd like to do as well. Because what if we turn that off, or we overwrite it? What if we grab values from something and overwrite it? Something like that. Okay, so sorry, so just taking a nice big inhale. So that's gives us a way to interface with it. That's gives us a way to control everything that's going on. All we need to add to there is but on each one. But what I'm still really concerned with is we still don't really have a way to figure out how to activate the button. We could do it through build button. We could literally say through the build button, if standards is equal to true, and build button, and AUT, do we call it AUT? Yeah, an AUT2 is not equal to an empty cell, then activate build button. So let's give that a go. So we're going to call test box in here, UTH click. So where's my build? Where's my build? Build button, here. So let's bring it down. And you see, I worry though that this might not execute unless we interface with it. It's the big thing. So the question is in standards, do we put the test in there? Because if we put the test in there, that may give us a bit more flexibility, if you will. So let's put the test. I'll start with standards and then we'll take it from there. So we've got if, in fact, let's just look at the old procedure. So I'll come back into standards. Standards, there we are. If AUT is equal to true, if AUT text is not equal to an empty cell, we'll delete all that, and what we'll do then is say standards is equal to true. Standards is equal to true. Then make the build button. Else make it false. So then we're running the same type of test in both. So let's run back. Let's double check. So run again. Because if this works, we've got a big step forwards there as well. So let's run it in. Now, what I'm checking to see is if I can click on that and it activate the build button. Apparently not. So we've hit an ultimate logic issue here, Because if I close it and come into here, this is overwriting it. So we either put the test box into here and have two direct configurational states, which we could. We could have this as a case statement. So let's try that as a case statement. So I'll go select case. Now what I'm going to do is check standards. So if we go standards, becomes our case test. I'm going to tab it in. Case is true. Ah, yeah. It's looking for an equals because it wants to know exactly what it's testing for. So case is true. If the standards is true in this case, what we'll do is we'll say this. I'm going to cut that out. Then we're going to paste that in. What I actually want to do is get these all tabbed in correctly. So I'm just going to make a little bit of space for myself, and I'm going to get this tabbed as it should be towards towards any type of case. So in this case, if I tab and then come back, and I'm going to tab that as well because it just really shows how the if statement's working. So then I'll come back in. I'm going to go case is equal to false. So come back up. Bring it in one more. Then let's come across and then let's tab. I want to tab this in as well because it wants to be located correctly. Now this is our call test box. So we'll run actually that in the standard check. So let's run it. Let's check it. Oh, sorry, that's me. It's my fault. Stop that. So let's bring that across and then run back into the main code, into the main. Let's run it again. Welcome. And so if I now, what have I got here? Oh, my fault, my bad. Come back in, and on this test box, if you remember, you've got to, of course you will remember, but I didn't. We're going to go end, select. And then let's run that back in again. So, what I actually want to do is check to see. Oh, hello! And then if I deactivate. So we've now got a way of jumping in between. For a second there, I wasn't sure if it was going to work. So I've got 4. Yes! Yes! What we're after. So I click back, gone. Click on. Now you see there it's still there because that has been reloaded. It's already been stored in the memory. The real question is, do we want to clear that out? We would really want to allow us to have a little bit more freedom within it. But no, that's an initial nice start. That's a very nice start. We've now got, a custom option. We've got a standards option. We do want to make it a bit more sophisticated. So I want to come back into here first, and I'm going to copy them because let's face it, in this is the last time you're ever going to get away with copy and paste so much before in your life. And I'm going to do the same thing here, just replacing that initial command for but. but, and we go but. So now we should be able to snap in and snap out of them functions. So let's run again. So I'm going to hit save and then run. Nice. Really pleased with that. What we could do is, if you wanted to, I want to, we can reconfigure this to be bigger. So we come on to here, let's go categories, let's go size. So we've got left, height, 32.25. So if I bring that down a little bit, and then categories, height, 102. Right, so what I'm going to do is, first things first. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to come back down. I'm going to go snipping. And now I don't know if you see the snipping tool for this, but oh, you swine. Then snipping didn't work. I'm just going to call up sticky pad. Call up my sticky notes, and this was a test I was doing. Going to go height. 32.25. We want to keep, well, in fact, let's just take it all. Left is 114.75. Top is 5.25. Width 101.25. Right, so that's one configuration that I want. I'm just going to put this onto one side for the minute. I've got it on the other screen just because I want to see if I can now bring this down to here. Right, so come back down. What I've done is just copied that onto the other tab, so we know the height is different. 103.5, 114, 581. Right, so we actually know we're changing height by 103.5. So I'm going to bring that back. Can I control Z? Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Right, so this now you should be really starting to see now where these customable options I've been asking you about, how you're going to do different things, how you're going to change different things. Now, just for this, just as an example, I'm going to change the list box height. So if I switch it off, all the options go apart from a list of different options that you get. Oh, but if I turn it back on, it will reset itself to sit in its original state of where it should do. The test box still sits in how it should do, but because I'm now on the standards click, this is a button I can use to my advantage. And the beauty is we already have something that disables and enables. If standards is false, standards is true, so not false. So what we'll do is bring it down. If that's the case, then what we're going to do, we're just going to say AUT2 dot height. You're going to love this. I love this already. Is 103.25. And then else, if anybody comes back, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure they can see all their options. and it's going to make it look like a totally different interface box. And this size here, if you remember, well, you saw where I took the values from. So I've got 32.25, like that. So let's come back, let's save it, and then let's run. Build. Now if this works, these will vanish, this should get big. So I can scroll in and go, oh yes, that's what I'm after. Or is it? Is it that one? Is it that one I'm after? Is it not? That's still a little bit big, is that? Look at that. I mean, arguably I can either stretch this down or not. But if I turn it off, resets itself. You've got to admit, that is pretty cool. It comes in, and I've now got an option to choose from, and I can just build outright, or I can disable it, then the user has to choose what they're going to put in. Again, how you're going to address it to make it look a bit more jazzy is purely down to you, hence why I'm not doing all the big bits. There's lots of big bits to be done, but these are the main foundations of stuff. Now, we can add tabs in there, we can have images in there. We can, I mean, what is that one? Frame. Yeah, we can frame particular points to give people an idea of what it is that they're making, to give an indicator of what they're making. It can be quite useful for things like that. But again, it's purely down to what are you doing? What is your function, if you will? So, let's have a think. Let's have a think. Let's have a think. We want to make sure that the users don't mess around with that. That's one thing that we need to do. We want to go on to the build. Yeah. So we've got our particular heights being refined. Really, we're going standards. We want to get rid of the labels as well. I mean, labels are a bit crappy. If they're left there and you're running, you kind of go, what? So what I'm going to do is get onto here. And I'm probably going to disable the labels as well. The beauty is these are the L versions. So I'm going to come into here. I'm going to do the same thing again. Bring that down. Paste it back in. And then from 4 upwards, change that to L. Whoops. Yep. Change to L. Change to L. And change to L. And then bring that down to there as well. Paste that in. Paste that in. And then we're going to go L to L to L to L. Oh, yeah, just realised that needs to be true, or else that's going to get very difficult when I sit there and go, why is it not working? Why is it not working? So go true, come again, then we go true. And then we come back in here and we go true. So I'm going to save. And we'll bring it back and then let's run it again. Again, you'll notice I'm running every time I make a change. It's just because you don't want to get into these and go, why is that not working? And you try to step back and go, wow, I have no idea. So I click OK, stretches everything down, and that's nice. That's spot on. So I can't build it, can't mess around with it. Build's totally deactivated. And if I go back in now, build's on, build is off. If I populate here, build is on, build is on. So it's functioning, that was my point. Right, so a few things that we want to do is we need to make sure that there's this thickness between them. So, let's have a look at what sizing we were saying. Right, I'm gonna copy that. I'm not actually going to use that as a key, but I'm going to copy that. We're going to be able to do away with this case statement. That's my point. So I'm going to go on to build. We'll do a final initial test, and then we'll go like that. So what we're actually after doing is doing a check against it. That's wrong as well. I keep obsessing with that case statement. I don't know why I keep obsessing with that case statement. I'm driving myself insane. There we go. That's the one I was talking about. I'll copy that, come back, and then let's get back into that build. That's what we tested against. And what can be useful is we either run it as a final test here, or we run it as we're scrolling through. A final test I think might be useful. We do need to tell the user you've ballsed it up, something's gone wrong. And we need to, this is a sensitive one, because when this functions, when it executes, if we don't make this stable, it will still run anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if, so we have AUT, AUT2, oh no, it's BUT. BUT is less than AUT2 plus 1. In this case, that was our I've gone totally blank. That was our wall thickness. Just went totally blank then. I tell you, I swear to God, I went totally blank. Anyway. So we've got the B, we're testing B against the initial of AUT, and we're just plussing 1. 1 was just a wall thickness. I'm going to put that in there as a reminder to myself because I'll forget. AUT 2 plus 1 being wall thickness. Arguably you could control that as well, but it's a signalized value that we could easily change if we need be. We may need to examine that because there probably is a wall thickness. I just don't know what it is. I've not really checked because I got really caught up in doing what we're doing here. We want to do a message box. Now, how am I going to change it? I can hear you shouting and screaming. Well, maybe me, I'm shouting and screaming. So we come to here. We're going to, oh, look at this. Look at that. Nice. I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that. I like that. Of course I do. I put it there. I'm going to run that in. Again, let's take a look. User form 1 dot oh. So this is if you remember, this is BUL. BUL. So I'm going to send the message, and we're going to say oh, let's go wall thickness does not exist. Wall thickness does is not doable. Too thin. 9mm, like that. Then we'll go. We're going to go BUT. Now what that'll do is it will take that value, get rid of it, and deactivate the actual build button. So switching it off. Now to take you back to the original notes. Let's go back to the original notes. And then we have A is equal to 0. Now what this does is it comes in with a dimension of A as an integer, sets it to 1. If that comes in, it sets it to 0, deactivates the build button, and makes it impossible to execute. So we're going to actually use some of this. This is useful. This is good stuff. So I'm going to come back, and I'm going to come onto here, copy that, and for the nature of what this is doing, it's what I need. It will do the job. I'm going to delete that new line, or else that's going to get confusing, because I didn't put it there, so why the hell would I have it there? Well, I mean, I did put it there, but for this, it's not meant to be. So I've got A is equal to 0. And then, as ever, in any type of statement that we're doing, we've got end if. Right, so now you see here, it has a multiple testing here. So we're going to say if A is equal to 1, then it will execute. So we'll do that same thing. So we'll go so now we've got a particular test on it, which is great. It's perfect. If you're not too sure about how this works, I would honestly say make sure you practice with this. It can be a little bit confusing. So I'm going to end that if. Let's make a bit of spacing, or else. And then here is obsolete. Now the best thing we can do is let's check it. So, come back, let's get back to here, and now let's run. To washer. So we're going to go standard, and then we're going to go, I'm going to go 2. So there's a direct comparative there, and then we'll go 3. Then we'll go build. Oh, that was not what I was after. So let's close that. That didn't do what I wanted it to. So it could mean that my code is old as far as running as it should have done. So let's come back in here. It should have. Let's come back onto here, and then we're going to go BUL. So it should have added that to there, but it didn't. It built a message box. So user form 1. Okay, it may be me copying that in. Oh, look at that. 2, that should be. Because you remember, I made that mistake earlier. So we're going to go user form 1 dot BUL dot caption is equal to, you see it's running, but it just didn't like what I've just done. So I'm going to run that back in again. Let's see what happens. Comment that out, which ironically is the old one. And BUT should be emptied, and the BUT is false. Okay, let's do that again. Hit save. Let's come back. And let's go. I'll make it a blatant one, so let's go 10. I'm going to do an inner diameter of 2, and then we're going to go 3. All thinner than 1 millimeter. Now that's because it's running back in. So my logic isn't working. So let's have a look. If BUT is less than AUT plus 1. Let's break it. We've got to see what's happening. So let's do BUT. Add that to watch. Click OK. And add that to watch. I know we're starting to run out of time. I totally get that, so don't worry. We are going to finish it up relatively soon. I just want to test through to see what's going on and why it's happening. Because it does disable the button. Why does it disable the button? So let's go back. Okay, let's go 3, and then let's go 1, and then 1, and then build. Right, so. Oh, look at that. It's in as an object. Und Scheiße. Damn it. So that's a swine. That is a swine. Okay, so BUT is being registered as a different value completely. I'm trying to add that to it. Oh, that's a bummer. So if that's in as a text box, let's just have a check on how I've done it on the other one. So scroll back in into integer, onto there. Look at that. So this is a singleized comparison between a range. So we can look directly. It's because it's coming in. Okay, so we're going to test that then as well. If that's the case, then me trying to add that, let me see if I can just put this into quotation, because this will then open it up as a string type behaviour. If we come back, save it, I'm going to run it again. Oh, that's an interesting one. Good though, like it. So I'll come into here, go 1, and 1, and build. See, we're on to 4 now. So it's now starting to do like I wanted it to. So I'll do F5. Oh, you see that? Now it's worked. It has done its job. It was all because of that simple thing. So let's run that back again and let's run it in. Let's go. Build it in. Go into here. I'm going to go 2, then 1, and build. Wall thickness, too thin, 1 in millimeters. Oh, okay. So then if we go 6, build. Phenomenal. So we now got good functioning. So we now got, dare I say it, some basic error proofing. It is basic, but it's a good move forwards, like that. What we need to do is make it a little bit more protected. What I intend to do tomorrow is to build on this a little more to make it even more sophisticated. The one thing that we've done by making that is, you see where we've got this, which checks for everything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just highlight that, and I'm going to comment that out, because by my reckoning, that now is totally obsolete. We've already found a way of stopping somebody from messing with it from the front end. So really, really arguably, let's just take, I'm going to copy, in fact, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all this, right click and cut, and I'm going to go into my user form, go onto my build, and where we've got this here, I'm just going to come down just a little bit, paste that in, and you see I've got this, copy, and stops. So I'll come onto here, and then I'll put these onto here, and then paste. So we don't even need the mid-declaration marker. That's the big aim here. Get rid of all these little bits of crap, you know, these little bits of stuff. I'm going to get rid of them as well, because they'll be very confusing. And then, yeah, and now we're in a really, really good position, being able to control, stopping people from doing really stupid stuff. But this is a nice way, I should say. So the build button now takes its role. We've got an initializer. We can control. I mean, I won't lie, I do like the custom bit. So if we run that in, and we go, right, I'm going to make it custom, boom. It even configures the user form box. That is sophisticated. I quite like that. It's very cool. But that technique I was showing you there, you could use that to move the labels around. You could use that to do all sorts, and it gives the illusion that the box transforms into something else. But if I click it back, it resets itself. It's really slick. I like it. So stop it. I'm going to save it. Right, guys, we are on 5-1. Before I draw this to an end, is there any? Have you got any questions on this at all? If there's anything that you're unsure about, if you have requests that you'd like me to do again or cover again, please say. No, not now. Not now. Close out. Close out. If there is any requests, please, drop me a line. You can contact me over Teams. If you need to speak to me privately over Teams, more than happy to as well. I'm actually just sat in my office all day, all night long. So you're more than welcome to get in touch. I hope you found this a benefit. What I like to think that we've done here is really opened up some of the functions, some of the tools of user forms, and yeah, you can really see now how you can start to make things custom. Like I said, over tomorrow, what I'll probably do is bring in the letter control and alternates. If we're going to mess with someone, how do we do it? How do we mess with someone? How do we reconfigure stuff? So, like for example, there's no reason why on here we couldn't click this. These vanish, and even the build button gets reconfigured and gets moved around. Lots of stuff we could do with it. But anyway, hope that's helped. And if you've not any questions, then I will draw a line underneath that, and I will speak to all you guys soon.